are live with eMutagen-X, so give us a second while we invite everybody in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's good to see everybody here today. You're here for the Transgenomic Multi-Organisms. We're going to have a fun hour here. This is an imaginative event exploring genetic modification, quantum biology, and universal endurance. I'm going to be your interviewee, Jean Gnome. If you're not familiar with who I am, that's okay. I am a morphing entity. I change shape as I learn about the multi-organisms that are here on planet Earth. And I do this through Instagram, and I talk to really interesting beings and entities. Today I'm talking to eMutagen-X, who I'll introduce you to in just a moment. And then we'll be also hearing from a cosmic being, a Kquaanian. So, which delves into the potential life beyond limits. So this is a dialogue that we're going to have around art, philosophy, and challenging traditional biological boundaries and envisioning a timeless future. So let's get into this. So to get a little bit more deeper into here, let's just first of all welcome some of our audience members. Hello, Gustavo. Welcome. As you all are coming into here, so this is an imaginative space that where light shapes and bounds of what's possible in dreams and blends seamlessly with reality. So we're going to have these conversations as this unfolds. This is a dialogue. It's at the intersection of genetic modification, quantum biology, and universal endurance, painting a picture of what a future looks like where life surpasses the known limits. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my special guest of the day. This is eMutagen-X. You want to say hello?
Hello.
eMutagen-X. And we're going to go into a little bit of description of who this being is. So what I plan for our conversation today, we're coming to you with eMutagen-X is actually a result of a wild late night science experiment by a group of reproductive technology enthusiasts. This genetically modified human is born with a quirky mix of genetics and cloning. Its creators made what you see here is eMutagen-X, a bizarre sense of what's aesthetic, mixing various species and genetic tweaks without much thought and contemporary art standards. As a result, eMutagen-X stands for the poster child of quirky, cloned, and genome-edited population. I do want to say we're here with the special guest of the Telematic Media Arts, which is based in San Francisco. We're here coming in telematically, also part of the Chimæric Mind Conference at the Roy Ascott Studio, which is also happening globally, and with CYLAND MediaArtLab. So I want to thank our partners before we get started in here. So, all right, eMutagen-X. All right, thanks for joining us. I want to ask you a little bit about your creation story. Can you tell us a little bit about how you became you?
Well, as far as I can tell, there was some biohacking bioartists messing around in the lab doing some kind of Calvin Klein marathon or anti-Calvin Klein ketamine and cocaine marathon of research creation, and they isolated the genes for the pineal gland and made a pineal gland extending construct, which was then micro-injected with a sperm into an egg that became me. I was implanted into a artificial womb. Actually, I was one of 1,000 babies on a giant wall of that 1,000 artificial wombs, and I'm the only one who made it. The other 999 were epic fail babies, but this was part of, I think it was part of the GAP. It's a transgenic human genome germline alternatives project, and the GAP.
I think we can see it now. Yeah.
It's a workshop for making sure that the human species isn't engineered merely by transhumanist utopian efficiency experts who are into longevity and sexual prowess as health and don't seem to understand that if we're going to alter our species, it shouldn't be based on frontal lobes and giant tits and ass alone, but also all of the realms of possibility that mutation can provide for the human species commons. And so I suppose I'm a living representative of some kind of mutant aesthetic, not based on anything except for spiritual replacements for psychosurgery. As we know, most people that want to become enlightened now use some sort of materialist means, and if it's not genetic, it's going to be a drill. And a transgenic pineal gland extender like this is better than one that's just drilled and then grafted through brain surgery into your pineal gland. So I feel lucky to have been born. I feel lucky to have been born this way.
So can you explain to us a little bit more about this pineal extender? I don't think that our audience is familiar with that part of our body.
Well, I just actually, I just had one installed because this, as you can see, the one that I was born with is a little fritzy at this point. It wasn't really engineered that well. And so I did get a drill, and I drilled a hole here, and we tissue cultured this one. This is a pineal gland extender that both of them go directly into my brain to my third eye and give this sort of extra reception. One is tissue cultured, the other is genetically engineered. One goes in through my center of my forehead, and the other directly through the top of my head. But there are other ways in. In other words, you can actually attach a pineal extender or two through your nostrils into your face, and then they will come out like this and be like antennas that kind of hang from your nose. Now, why does a pineal gland need extension? Because it's stuck inside of our frontal lobes, which are blocking the reception. They got too big too fast, and we fail to recognize the universe as our thing. Some people are in touch, maybe through Gnostic spirits on the dark side of the moon, but maybe because their pineal gland is already extended. They kind of have a pineal, swollen pinealness, but without that, you either have to do some gene therapy or some psychosurgery with some tissue cultures and do a graft, and these are some of the stupidest paths to enlightenment, because if you become enlightened in this way, the other people who did it through meditation or other kinds of practice might make fun of you a lot, especially if you have the nostril gland, because it looks a lot like this, like it kind of hangs out of your nose. It goes up through your sinuses into your pineal gland, but it kind of hangs out of your nose like this, and hanging out of your nose, you're able to receive messages from the cosmos better than most brains, but it does look like you're permanently kind of something hanging out of your nose. It's a strange look.
You know, this extension really is about really giving yourself, in a sense, a third eye and a better view into the cosmos. Rene Descartes called this the seat of the soul. Oh, what does that mean? What's the philosophy and reasoning behind the pineal gland being the seat to the soul?
Well, if you do take, you know, like some people do take cross section of the brain, you can see that the pineal gland is contained in an area that looks a lot like the Eye of Horus, or the Ankh, the Egyptian Ankh. And we know the Egyptians did a lot of brain surgery because they did a lot of brain mummification, or at least sticking brains in canoptic jars. So I know that literally between your eyes, behind your eyes, there are optic nerves. And the optic nerves, they do crisscross. They crisscross like this behind your eyes. And right where they crisscross, there is your pineal gland. It is there, right there. And being there is not enough. it receives light data from the optic nerves, even though it's in the dark. It has rods and cones in it, like our eyes. And it receives this in the center of the mind, in the dark. It receives light data. And that light data does influence when you wake up, when you go to sleep, your menstrual cycles according to moonlight. Even, oh, this is weird, even possibly yearly migration cycles due to seasons or seasonal affective disorders, etc. But even on top of all that, it's possible that there are cycles that are longer than a day or a month or a year, but that represent like 23 million year cycles or 200,000 year cycles. And we can sense through the star maps that we read through our pineal gland, we can sense where we are in the universe and what's happening. It's like a Google Calendar without, it's the original Wi-Fi. In any case, I have two ways to win. As you can see, I'm trying to become super receptive to the universe with this double pineal extension, and I think I'm picking something up right now.
What are you picking up right now? What are you receiving?
It seems that the sun is actually at the bottom of the sky, and its light is actually excremental, and that we're larvae accumulating the sun's shit light energy, and therefore death is brilliant. And the volcanic eruptions are a response like a fart to the endless sun excretion of fire. And our life itself is this, what is it? It's some kind of photonic diarrhea.
That's interesting. So you are receiving this really different sense, I can see, with this pineal gland. I want to ask you some more questions that really go into some more of your own experiments. So you have developed some other genomic experience. Can you share a little bit of some of the genes that you have been, in layman's terms, like how do we understand other genes that you may have within yourself, but also may have experimented with others?
Well, we have this thing called the GAP, the Transgenic Human Genomes Alternative Project. And like I said, this is to make sure that alternative humans exist in the world after so many different organizations, corporations, military establishments, nation states, or global control freaks try to mainline our genomes into something more useful or less rebellious, etc. And so we got together with a bunch of artists and scientists and playful weirdos and kind of what bioinformatics is by going on the bioinformatic databases and demystifying them. And then perhaps, like, there are some genes that got pulled out of the bioinformatics databases by non-experts. And one of them is called blue cheese, BCHS stinky SNK2 wetnap WNP3K. And one is called, what is it? It's the one you were asking about. It's called, oh, SURA5, or super repair after sunburn, which is real. The super repair after sunburn gene, SURA5, exists. But what we did was we isolated that gene and we made a construct for the public to be able to inject it into their chosen human embryo. But we also did different analyses on those genes, like what do we think those genes might be good for or bad for, and what would it be like to be born a baby with that gene stuck in that baby from someone else, and in particular, what's a science fiction story about that baby like? But also then we became art critics, and the idea is to use your art critical abilities to find some sort of way of reading the baby as a sculptural art form, and also how to become a snotty art critic, because it's not that easy. You have to really be a snot bag. And so we're working on snot baggery. If you know anyone who's not good at it, we can help.
So this bioinformatic database, this is something that is like a database that has genes. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with what genes do, they are the ones that tell us, how can we respond to certain environmental events. Adam mentioned sunburns as an example, but also change the way we actually figuratively look, as you can see. eMutagen-X. I apologize. There's a scientist named Adam Zaretsky, but he's just a crazy mad scientist connected to eMutagen-X.
I've body jumped into that guy a couple times, and it's yucky.
You have, and I think that sometimes I get confused eMutagen when I have met this mad scientist and connected with him. I want to give a moment to let any of the audience members as they're coming in here ask any questions, because I think you introduced a lot of new concepts. Like, I don't think a lot of us knew about what the pineal gland was, and that you can actually have it pulled out of your head and your nostril in order to reach the cosmos and have that other enlightenment, or that you can just experiment with different genetic traits and through publicly available information, and that there are artists and scientists who are just creating a madman, or mad creations out of what they can find. So I want to see if the audience has anything that they want to ask you, and because this is an opportunity to really connect with a transgenomic being. All right.
I'm taking all questions. I'm taking all callers.
All right, we don't feel shy. We're gonna bring in another artist. And wait, this isn't an artist. This is a something from another planet. All right. Well, what we've got here is, this looks like a Kquaanian. This is my next guest coming in. This is a Kquaanian from the planet Kquaanian. We're gonna let them speak in a moment, but before I have them speak, and we're gonna bring eMutagen-X back on in a little bit. But eMutagen-X, do you have anything else that you want to say or share that you think that this audience needs to know?
Well, just to be sure, I think the power of the pineal gland is that it is sensitive, and so I hope that we know that salamanders use their pineals at night to navigate, even when the moon is not out. Now, if they can use their pineals to navigate on a moonless night, then it's possible that we know where all the stars are innately, because our pineal gland is mapping them in 360 all the time.
That's important for us to know, because we actually possess these pineal glands, but there are other species on Earth that use these regularly to be able to navigate and move around space. I think this is something that's a part of our bodies that we don't get to actually interact with and be part of all the time. And the fact that your creators specifically really push this out to give you this other insight is really just like incredible. So eMutagen-X, this is what I'm going to ask you. If you could maybe just pop out for a second. Oh, wait, we do have a question. We do have a question. All right, I'm going to bring this question in. This is from Clark. Clark asks, is it a sense organ? Is the pineal gland a sense organ?
It seems like as a gland, it is light sensitive, and it used to be external to our bodies. The outside of the pineal gland is a kind of exoderm, even though it lives inside of your mind. And there are lizards that have their pineal gland externalized. So it may have been a third eye for real, which would make it an organ. But the difference between an organ and a brain organ and a gland is a little superficial. What's important is that it's really about linking with rhythms of the cosmos, that it registers sun up and sun down, that it registers full moon and new moon, that it registers the tilt of the earth and the seasons in comparison to the sun. And so it probably registers even the cycles of the galaxy, the solar system, yes, but also like the Milky Way itself as it revolves around the center. It has some kind of circadian rhythm, which can give you not only earthly location and timing for things like hibernation or seasonal affective disorder or migration, but also cosmic location, uh, where you are in the Milky Way and where the Milky Way is in comparison to other galaxies. It may reach very far. Now, it also controls not only sleep and ovulation, but also the onset of puberty. And during puberty, the pineal gland develops something like sand. Pineal sand develops during
All
puberty.
right. Well, eMutagen. One quick last question, then I'm going to ask you to come off, and then we'll come back on again. Is this is also from Clark? Is the pineal gland, is it vulnerable to other sensitivities, or are there ways to cultivate the sensibilities?
Oh, you mean besides genetically modifying your body to create a pineal extender, or drilling a hole up your nose or in the center of your forehead or down through the top of your head? Are there other ways besides physical material enlightenment to achieve the same results without drills or gene modification? As in, like, are you talking about something like meditation or some sort of practice where you of Kundalini, where you try to open your third eye, or are you talking about William S. Burroughs' body jumping third mind, fucking quizzical, crazy alien, homophilic orgiastics? Yeah, these are all good ways, probably better than using a drill, because if you have to use a drill to drill one of these into your head or up your nose, then even if you reach a state of actualization, of full-on totality of awareness, the other people that meet you there will make fun of you. The guy had to use a drill. Couldn't even sit down and just breathe.
Well, not to mention that it also is quite painful to get drilled into the head. All right, because of time, I'm going to ask you, eMutagen-X, if you could come back to us in 15 minutes, because
Yeah.
I want to give some time to we're actually, like a lot of people are here on Earth time, but we actually have been able to really communicate light years ahead, and now we're able to communicate on another time from another planet, Kquaanian. I'm Kquaanian. I'm going to ask, can you put your head up a little bit there? Okay, great. And we're gonna communicate a little bit in English here, if you don't mind. I understand this is not your first language, but when I planned our conversation today, I wasn't quite sure how we were going to be able to communicate, because your strength is a bit beyond what verbal earthlings can do using telepathic transmission. We're on a primitive form of communication called social media. Thank you for agreeing to use our primitive platform where people use sound bites and songs to emote their interests and concerns. So I hope you don't mind we start this conversation in verbal English. All right. So Kquaanian, can you elaborate a little bit more about the planet Kquan and its mission here on Earth?
Yes, I will try to speak slowly, because language is not really our very strong part of communication, because like you told just a few seconds ago, we prefer to have some telematic communication, but I would like to tell a few words about our planet first, because our planet, this is just much smaller than Earth, and we have 2 natural satellites. We have 400 days instead of 362 of yours, and length of the day is 32 hours. Our planet is very beautiful. We have a little bit bluish color, And actually, we are Kquaanian. We are the biggest life form of the planet because all in other beings, they are much, much smaller. But it doesn't mean that we didn't have some problem, but still we are more or less like dominated beings, sensitive beings. And our civilization also dates already quite long history we have behind us, because this is more than 700,000 years of civilization, and we are considered more or less, if we will do references to the earthling hypothesis about civilization, we are more or less a thought level following Kardashev hypothesis what civilization could be, that civilization that we can use resources all over all the galaxies. And also it means that we are totally different purposes of our existence now, because we mainly traveling, just learning about universe around us, and we still don't know how it was constructed and where it come from, and we don't know the origin. So it's exciting journey. And again, about the earth and about our presence here, because normally we looks like mainly, just if we go close to some known shape in the earth, it looks like tardigrade. Actually, tardigrade, this is our far away relatives. And so we're not at all anthropomorphic appearance. And also, we have just to say that there are a lot of different civilizations, but they are totally different that Earthling one. And we have some sort of the more or less, like we name it, reasonable civilization coalition, galactic coalition, that included more than hundreds different kinds of the aliens scattered all over universe for millions of light years. And we have sort of the agreement that we watching different planets, and statistically every 2 million years there is a possibility of the occurrence of the process that contribute to the emergence of life on particular planet. When there are conditions for development of intelligent life, by general agreement, one of or another, our cultural community, which is similar in appearance or atmospheric parameters and condition, is assigned to observe the evolutionary process. So such kinds of the observer that always follow in different kinds of the planet's development. And we, Kquaanian, we were given this possibility, and we receive this obligation to accompany the Earth. So because of this, we are here.
So that's a really helpful background of your planet and the people on your planet. But on Earth, what are you doing on here? Like what are your assignments? Like what is it that you the other beings of Kquaanian are doing here on this planet?
Well, normally we're observing what is happening. So we can say that we are trying just to not really interfere. Our observation mainly links to just watching. But lately, unfortunately, our tribeman was totally disappointed and frustrated about what is happening in the earth, and more or less already just a long time ago, but mainly from the development of the technology from 19th, 20th century, and also constant terrestrial conflicts on a private and public nature, bloody wars, and so-called 20th century's revolution, invention of weapon mass destruction, and the danger of annihilation of the entire ecosystem of the planet force us to start looking for a new methodology following the observation. So we were thinking how we can more or less influence Oslin not doing what they're doing now. And one of the idea was, because we have very developed genetical science on our planet, it was just make experiment on around 100 women, Earthling women, selected from the scientists and or scientific family with the scientists. Just during the sleep, we make some sort of the surgery, nanosurgery, to introduce the gene prefix to their embryo. So it gives possibility to develop some sort of the Kquaanian Oslin population that I belongs to. And this population is different because also we have some special development that it also is artificial, but it was very welcome in our planet 300,000 years ago, that more or less we are able to transmit through genetical information also the different information. So information becomes the part of our existence. So we can know history of all universe, know different kinds of science, different kinds of the languages, and to communicate with different kinds of the aliens, because we are very used to this information. We are not computer at all, but we have this possibility and this development of genetical way to supply our brain with information. So we found ourselves here on the Earth. We had a big problem immediately. So my civilization, because normally, unfortunately, we noticed that children like me compare, just like we were too clever, just development was too quick, and at 4 years old we knew already all the encyclopedia of the Earth, including everything. So just it became too dangerous, and also we were not sure how actually this symbiotic personality will behave. So at the end we are here, just but we are always treated by tribemen's different way, that just our information more or less is erased from our head with the help of the different kinds of the migraines. This is the part of the program. So we are here, we are observing, we bring in different kinds of the knowledge information through our body, because we also have different kinds of this system of senses, but we not entering in the Earthling development.
So we have a quick clarification question from one of the audience. You mentioned 300,000 years ago. Is that an exact amount or an approximation?
No, just like our civilization, like we name civilization when we start to have some sort of the more or less language and archival information, it's already 700,000. So we are very, very old civilization, 700,000 years, Earthling years.
Yeah, so your species is much more advanced than that. But when you came on to Earth to look at and observe how we are at our planet, I do apologize. Well, I'm actually not. I mean, I'm not a human necessarily. I'm here as a Riftia Pakaba. But I do understand there are so many different species here on the planet, and when you are looking at one of the more common species, which is the Homo sapiens, their interactions have been pretty problematic with, and I understand that you've experimented yourself with some of the genetic modifications with these Homo sapiens on here. So you're coming to us as what we see as a cosmic tardigrade. So this is something that is really interesting to us, but there are different types of classifications of tardigrades. And what does that mean for your tardigrade entity and classification? What does that mean, and how is it integrated here into the Earth's orbit?
Well, just like it's true, because we have different kinds of the species in the well, they're not tardigrade, Kquaanian tardigradian, because we have several of them, and they are very different, because there is interstellar carriers. This is very big size tardigrade that could be more or less, first of all, travel through the space, and secondly, they can also carry inside of itself our smaller species like cosmic tardigrade. So, for example, myotardic tardigrades, they can use like ship, but at the same time, this is totally sentient being. There is astrotardigrade. This is like a nomadic explorer, and they do some sort of the small travel in between the planets. There is also cosmic tardigrade like us. We are mainly working on this, pick up different kinds of information and to continue spread it all over, because like I already told at the beginning, most for us it's interesting not to invade somebody or just to, because it's totally, I think, a Ursula idea that if alien will come, they will invade somebody, but normally alien, if they will come, well, just like we can say it, we just don't invade anything, because it's already total different kinds of the level of civilization that invading another system or planets or galaxy, it's not interested anymore, just totally different targets. And so we have also, like I told also before, there's some sort of the connection with the tardigrade that lives on the Earth, because it's some sort of our family that more or less was arrived here like panspermia with the meteorite, and they very small because also the atmosphere of the Earth is much heavier gravitation forces than in our planet, so they stay as very small one, but in our planet such kinds of species a little bit bigger. And also for children, like children of tardigrade, and we propose them just to follow like Tamaguchi, the life of this smaller tardigrade, just to keep them alive, to give them food, and because our children also have some sort of the, well, more or less life like children, and just it's very nice if they can be involved in such kinds of the care about different forms of the life than us. So maybe your answer, no?
I I I think that's a good way of approaching it. There's a lot of different things happening on Earth. As I mentioned before, we have the Homo sapiens, which feel like sometimes the most dominant. And I think that this idea of the language of using the word alien in invasion or observation, this is really much more of a semantic thing, especially from a very small section, tribal section of Homo sapiens. But there are many more species here on Earth than Homo sapiens, which is, I think, dominates a lot of the conversation. We have a comment in the audience, an audience comment. Craig said Earth is about 10 quintillion, has about 10 quintillion insects. And insects, you may already realize this, are come in all sorts of sizes, and represent a little, like mimic a little bit of what the shape of a tardigrade may look like, and have other exoskeletons and body parts and really different types of sentient abilities. Some live deep underground and they're extremophiles, and some are crawling all over the planet, and some are high up in the sky. So there's only 8 billion Homo sapiens, which is a fraction of all the species here on Earth. So interspecies communication is the most effective at the insect alien nexus. And I think a lot you had mentioned about the communication that you do on Planet Kquaanian is not a verbal communication, but using word telepathy. And this is also similar in terms of how our insects and other species communicate. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that particular type of communicating and understanding the difference between the ways that Kquaanians and our species may be communicating with one another?
Yes, just it's also something that very good and very interesting to have this capacity. It links to the more or less like electrical signals of our brain, because like we know that is in the human brain the same, just like as chemical and electrical signals. So but in our brain it's much more developed, so just we are really can kept it, just catch it, just to create some sort of the picture about with whom we have some sort of the meeting or dialogue. It's not verbal communication, so it mainly going like more or less we can recognize, we can feel, not feel, but just see the different kinds of the mood of the person. Well, just like that we communicated, we can feel fear, we can feel shame, we can feel joy. So just this is really also something that more or less give us possibility to estimate the situation. And normally it's also because when we were also some sort of primitive society, it permitted us to avoid a lot of conflicts, because immediately we had some sort of the quick estimation what is possible and how it's possible to deal with one or another situation. So, and also we, like I explained, we have this is some special genetic modification when just in our genetical system we have a heritage of many generations of Kquaanian. So it means this system also links to different kinds of the tools that we can, with help of our telematic communication, just also transmit it. But in such kinds of the level, this is more or less like will be some sort of the more or less like a pictorial level, but it gives some we can understand each other very easily in between us.
Yeah, so this particular ability to have that communication does actually give you that a sense of emotiveness. Thanks, Craig, for some of the comments here mentioning that water bears are also care bears, and when you and this telepathic approach to communication is like a warm embrace. And I want to take a moment here to open up this for other audience members to ask some questions. This is a really unique ability to be able to talk to a organism, that multicellular organism that is so far away. So please feel free to add into the comments anything else you want to put into that. This is a great opportunity to talk to a Kquaanian. And we're going to start to also ask you, as we're waiting for those questions to come in, if you have other comments or things you want to share with us, that now that you're talking to this audience, this is also an opportunity to have your thoughts be archived and viewed after this on our primitive platforms. But I want to give that, open up that space for either audience comments or for you to share some of your final thoughts. Still thinking about, all right, we'll as we're waiting for that. Oh, okay. Oh, wait, we have in here, we're bringing back, there we go, eMutagen-X is coming back into the conversation. So eMutagen-X, welcome again. It's good to see you. We're talking to Kquaanian, really important understanding of their advanced society here on a smaller planet that they've been able to develop over 700,000 years in their observation of what's here on Earth. So Kquaanian, do you have anything else you want to share with our audience, and then we can kind of open it up to a conversation between all of us. Oh, okay, we have a question coming in. What's the Kquaanian relationship to time? How do you observe time?
Well, it's very difficult because it's the same, more or less like in the Earth. It's very difficult to answer what time is. We still didn't have this answer, especially that as we are traveling on different kinds of the many, sometimes million light years. through the universe. Fortunately, we have this capacity to be in some sort of this sleep, like all tardigrade here. Because of this, they are very resistant to different kinds of the conditions. So it means that you can boil tardigrade, let's say, in this state, or just put it in a on under radiation, so just it will not really affect, and after when it goes back to the normal condition they can procreate. So we have still very questionable what time is and how it's developed, because more or less what we see now that we start also meeting different kinds of the alien who is more or less in another part of the civilization level. They create some sort of multi-universe. And I was reading just about your Carl Sagan. I think that he was speculating on this subject, and it means that the time becomes so relative and so unpredictable, just because it's just all time is measured in differently where we are, what speed we have, and what kinds of the universe at that moment we occupied. So this is the same, very difficult.
Okay, yeah, I mean, time is very different. The way that we have it on Earth is very connected to our poles and to the sun, and I know that that is not the same in other galaxies and other spaces. And welcoming back eMutagen-X. eMutagen-X is a genetically modified human made from some artistic mad scientists in a lab, but really was given the gift of having a pineal gland, multiple pineal glands coming from the inside of the cranium out externally, that is really giving it the ability to have a connection and a transmission ability to the universe in outside of this planet. So I'm wondering if you have had opportunity eMutagen-X to communicate with somebody from Kquaanian or something from Kquaanian, or even a Kquaanian here, because of your unique abilities.
Oh, I'm communicating with them right now. Multisensorial occurs. Well, first of all, yes, because every time I come in contact with the sun or the moon or the solar system or the galaxy or the movement of the galaxy with other galaxies, tardigrades are everywhere, and the Kquaanian tardigrade types are everywhere, and they seem to be time-proof, bulletproof, space-proof, cosmic radiation proof, and they can live dormant for bajillion. And so they have 6 legs and they're super cute. So we have like a sort of dating thing.
8
legs.
Dating.
8 legs. Yes. Sorry, my reception is not so good still with all these accoutrements. But I have to say that I think tardigrade pineal glands are the best. And I have been in touch with them, and they have a lot to say. And a lot of what they have to say is about moss. I know it sounds strange, but they love moss. I mean, everyone's worried about aliens coming to the planet and taking over. The tardigrades live in every little piece of moss on the planet. They just love moss, and they're from outer space. Can you imagine coming from outer space and just finding moss and being like, "Whoa, moss!"
Oh, Kquaanian, have you had an experience? Have you experienced moss on Earth?
Well, just like moss is very nice, actually, space. It's very soft. We really like it because we, just like our tardigradians, Earthland tardigradian, they feel really very comfortable because they feel themselves like in a forest in the moss. It's a little bit humid, but they can easily hide themselves under different kinds of the parts of it. And also it's quite a lot of bacteria lives there that our Earthland tardigradian can eat. So just they have full, very good gastronomic table of different kinds of the small bacteria creatures there. So just, yes, it's true. Moss is fantastic, especially if you can imagine this moss, but just like augmented like 1,000 times it's beautiful.
Well, I'm gonna ask this question from Craig in the audience, and then we're getting close to time because I want to respect your respective moments in time here. But the question here is Kwandong, potential new species. What do you mean by Kwandong? I guess I don't understand that, Craig. What's the making a new species Kwandong?
I don't know because
a tardigrade mates with a corn dog.
well, corn is different. This is Kquaanian, but we will think about it because I don't know. We have just to study again because first of all we'll come to semantic. We'll try to understand what it means Kquaanian, and after maybe we can create it because we are very. We like very much genetical modification, even if it's just very forbidden on the earth, but we did it already very long time ago, so just we continue, and actually it's helping us.
All right, so we have another it's more of an existential question, that we have here. I think part of it is that we're all in this space because we're looking at this crossing of genetic information into Homo sapiens, genetic information from extremophiles and from genes, genetic code that's been turned off or hasn't been explored in different ways. I think we do need, the question here from Craig is also about research. We need more research, and a lot of this is that Homo sapiens on Earth haven't really even been able to really tap into a lot of this. Maybe another way to just begin to explore what is it that we can actually do, both as with interspecies communication, with moving around different genes. I think that the Kquaanians probably have really had more experience in advancing that. I know that they have created these Kquaanian human hybrids of there's some of them still roaming around here on this planet. I know that we're about of time, but I want to thank our audience here who's been able to really connect with us and have this opportunity to ask these unique beings about their development, about how really they were brought about. You'll be able to see more of this and see this in record at Telematic Media Art, so you can look on the website in about a week. And then also, if you are in San Francisco, you can actually still go see the exhibition by the artist Danielle Siembieda at Telematic Media Arts up until July 13th. So thank you both, eMutagen-X and Kquaanian, and feel free to telepathically communicate with me afterwards, and you are now connected with one another. So thank you all.